Banyamulenge or questioning their Congolese identity, which suggests that they do not deserve state protection and equal rights of citizenship. A few months ago, the DRC president, Felix Tshisekedi, declared that although Tutsi are Congolese citizens, they need to prove their loyalty to the DRC, which practically suggests the presumption of disloyalty for the whole community of Tutsis and Banyamulenge, and the burden of proof of loyalty on them falling on each one of them. Speeches as this one, coupled with decades of stigmatization, created an environment where the killing of individuals from this community are legitimized. Further, in this environment, arbitrary arrest and torture of several hundreds of young people from these communities, currently detained in several illegal detention facilities around the country, seem justified. We documented several hundreds of individuals detained for several years with no credible charges and no appearance before the judge. Most of them have been tortured, and some have died as a result of horrible conditions they are kept in. I will finish with my observations on the responsibilities. Given the gravity of the crimes taking place in Eastern DRC, you would naturally ask yourself, who are the responsible parties? At the lower level, of the chain, local armed groups ally themselves with the purpose of destroying targeted communities. In South Kivu, Bilozi Bishambuke of Ngoma Nzito, Kashumba, Makanaki, as well as Mai Mai Kutumba, Mtetezi, and the Kakobanya were the spearhead of the crimes targeting individuals from the Banyamulenge community. In North Kivu, various Nyatura factions, FDLR, have been identified by the several sources as primarily responsible for crimes targeting Tutsis. In Ituri, Codeco militias are the responsible for most atrocities against the Hen. However, several sources, including our witness testimonies and the UN report, confirm that high-ranking DRC armed commanders have been providing support to these militias, including ammunition, intelligence, and various supplies before and after the criminal attacks. General Chirimwami, the governor of North Kivu, is said to have provided support and coordinated with FDLR and Nyatura militias. General Luboya, the governor of Ituri, is said to have protected and used Codeco militia. In South Kivu, General Muhima, a general and several field officers were said to provide support and protection to Mai Mai militia. These senior army officers work directly with the military affairs advisor, Chef de la Maison Militaire, in President Tshisekedi's office. Of all the individuals, militiamen, and army officers against whom there are serious allegations of involvement in crimes targeting Tutsis and Banyamulenge and ABAHEMA, no one has ever been charged or tried. Worse, the DRC government took the decision to integrate all the militia involved in atrocities against these communities as official government paramilitary forces, regardless of their criminal past. This decision, added to the fact that no one has ever been prosecuted for crimes targeting Tutsis and Banyamulenge, sends a clear message of the government's endorsement of the crimes of the militia and military officers. In fact, impunity for crimes targeting Tutsis and Banyamulenge has been a norm for many years in DRC. I should remind, as you correctly mentioned, Rebecca, the killing of more than 150 Banyamulenge in Gatumba refugee camp 20 years ago has never been investigated. In my academic journey, when I started being exposed to the magnitude of genocide of 1994 against Tutsi in Rwanda, I always wondered how the world stood by and abandoned Rwanda in its darkest times. For a long time, I believed that maybe the international community, maybe the UN and other countries did not know what was happening. Maybe they were caught off guard. But the last 6 years, we have been working with victims of mass atrocities in DRC have taught me that powerful member countries of the UN only care when their interests are directly at play. The international community, including the United Kingdom, bears a share of responsibility in what's happening in the DRC. It is shocking to see how Western countries, fully present and informed of what's happening, are keeping silence. Human dignity, universality of human rights, never again, all the values championed by Western democracy remain empty words to this day for the victims of these atrocities. The victims of genocidal killings taking place today in the DRC are asking, where is the world? They are crying for your help. They are crying for justice they so deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. Just before I bring Bernard in, we've got a few more colleagues who've joined us from the Lords and Parliament, just to welcome you here today. And as I've explained to everybody here, MPs and Lords colleagues will be kind of bobbing in and bobbing out, because I know you've all got really busy diaries, but just to show a huge amount of appreciation from us all here today for popping in. And if you want to say anything, so without further ado, over to Bernard.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a Belgian lawyer, and I will tell you in few words the story of our team of lawyers and the way that we are functioning to obtain or try to obtain some results. The first man who visited my office, my law firm, is here, Innocent, who came and who explained to me, I was involved since many years in the Great Lakes region, and he said to me, Bernard, you have to give an eye to what is happening to the Banyamulenge community. So we began to work together, and after the situation of the Banyamulenge, we introduced a complaint in December 2021 in Kinshasa, a complaint with 800 pages, without any answer till today, with the testimonies of around 100 people explaining what they suffered at the period. I explained to Innocent that our way of working was to construct something with great credibility, because if we want to obtain some result and to be heard, we need to be absolutely correct in the explanations we are going to deliver and in our complaints. That was the first step. In 2022, we received a visit of the friends of the Tutsi and of Masisi, explaining us that it was the same story they were suffering. We were able to send discreetly some observers who went there and who said us situation is even worse than in the Minembwe area. And we collected again a lot of testimonies. After I was contacted by the people of the ABAHEMA community, explaining me that they had exactly, they were suffering from the same situation, even if ABAHEMA are not Tutsi, but they are considered of same ethnic group, what is not true, but they are considered like that. And Codeco were trying to destroy all their villages. So we began to work. We created a group of lawyers who are located in Congo, who are really courageous, because you must have a lot of courage to introduce the files and to defend our people. Secondly, we created a system whose name is BATUTSI, where every day we receive the stories, every day. And we have observers everywhere in eastern part of Congo. It means that if something is arriving today in that village, we obtain it in the 10 following hours in our system of BATUTSI, and we are able to open a file to try to see what happened to the family, to identify the family, the victims, who made who are the perpetrators, and so on. And on that base, we introduce a lot of complaints in Bukavu, in Goma, in Bunia, in Kinshasa. For instance, I am not going to present all the complaints because today we have hundreds of testimonies. We have all the hate speeches who are diffused on the net. We have captured. We have made a conservation of that and used for complaints. And for instance, here you have a complaint that we introduced for the Tutsi community, and you see each event we try to have the pictures, we try to have the documentation, we have people who made the alert, we have all this is, for instance, a Banyamulenge member of the army who was killed only because he was Banyamulenge, and for each file we have a little story about what is happening to the person. All the files we have introduced in before the authorities in Congo and that you have seen, all those files, none of them was handled. None of them was handled. It means, I think around perhaps 2,000 or 3,000 documents concerning victims, presentation with the author, perpetrator, circumstances. Nothing was handled. So what we made recently, and it creates some trouble, you have a lot of people who are in jail in Kinshasa, where we have the list of the people who are in jail in a place whose name is Demiap, and the people there are tortured. We have a list of the people concerned, and for the first time we have observed that the man at the head of Demiap, who is Congolese, has a double nationality. He's Belgian and Congolese. So we introduced the complaint in Belgium against him and created great trouble in Kinshasa. I can say you that after the fact, taking in consideration the fact that there was no follow-up for our complaints, we sent all those files to the ICC, hoping that they will handle those files. What I can say you is no, and we have no financial support. It's only with support of the members of the community. And perhaps this is the reason why we are so strong, because nobody can say anything and control what we do. We are free people working for our community, that's all. And what I can say you is we are going to continue whatever should happen till we obtain justice for those thousands of people.
Thanks so much, Jean-Paul and Bernard. Incredibly poignant and thought-provoking, and thank you to all of the work that you both do and have done over the years under what can only be described as really difficult conditions. and it takes people like yourselves to never give up and to keep going and to keep fighting and to look for the cases and the answers that so many people deserve. We've got the lovely Jeremy Corbyn joining
that introduction before.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know a lot of people would love to hear a few words from you.
Going for a discussion first, and I'll come in, yeah.
Perfect. Okay,
I'll
so
be in there.
excellent. Excellent. So next up then we have Mr. George Badagu, who's been working on human rights for a number of years on humanitarian issues affecting the Banyamulenge community. Got 2 microphones here.
Thank you very much. MP Rebecca Longberry, distinguished members of Parliament and House of Lords who are here today, we are very pleased to have you here. Esteemed members of the collective of advocates who are here, who've done incredible work, and also fellow members of BACA, the Banyamulenge community here in the UK, and valued friends, British friends. So Luke Wilson here, and I've known him for many years, and we met through this rallying and advocating for our people. Good afternoon all. And my name is George Budagu Makoko, and I'm a US citizen, and but originally from DRC Congo. I stand before you as a representative of Mahoro Peace Association in the US, NPA, a Banyamulenge community-based organization established in the United States in 2004. Mahoro Peace Association was born in the aftermath of the horrific Gatumba massacre in Burundi, and tragedy that claimed lives of over 166 Banyamulenge in a single night, despite the victims being under the protection of the United Nations and also the Burundian government. From its inception, the Mahoro Peace Association pursued two primary objectives. One, support the integration of the Banyamulenge members in the United States, but also advocate for peace and justice in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Today, I am profoundly honored to join brothers and sisters from the Banyamulenge Community Association here in the UK and raising awareness about the ongoing genocide against our people in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, as Tom mentioned. My deepest gratitude to MP Rebecca, who's been always supporting us and with unwavering compassion and dedication, and to everyone who helped make this incredible event today, and also including Castle Murura. And we're very, very happy to see this event taking place. My hope and prayer are that we'll leave this room with a renewed commitment to take a tangible action to halt the genocide against the Banyamulenge people in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The dire reality facing the Banyamulenge, and so many of you already mentioned that, and I'm just going to emphasize. The Banyamulenge people are facing an existential threat of unimaginable proportions. And if you go back in history, since 1965, our community has known little peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Discriminations, persecution, violence have been constant and rooted in the perception that our Rwandan ancestors rendered us foreigner in the land we have called our home. Since April 17 and 2017, and I'm going to emphasize on this, the atrocities have escalated dramatically. With the little knowledge we have now, we've counted over 300 villages that have been burned. And in fact, I also tried to collect some of the names of the villages, and I have on my phone. Recently, I received a list of villages that have been burned, and there are over 300 villages, if you name them. And one of us is going to explain and tell us more. We have the numbers that we have, rough number, we're talking about over 2,000 people that have been killed since the most recent escalation of the conflict, or the killing of the Banyamulenge. And in terms of livestock, we've lost over 500,000 livestock, and we have now hundreds and hundreds of displaced internally, but also externally. And they are now cornered into only 4 areas, including Minembwe, Ndondo, Rambo, and Bibogobogo. The enclaves lack food security, basic infrastructure. Many have fled to the neighboring countries, including Rwanda, Uganda, Ethiopia, Tanzania, where they endure appalling conditions in the refugee camps, surviving on less than $10 a month, with no access to education and no hope to resettlement into third countries like some of us who've come here in the UK or in the US. Adding to the tragedy, hundreds of Banyamulenge people have been imprisoned. Menge, Tony Menge already mentioned some of them, across various jails in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, with no fair trial or no recognition of their basic human rights. And some of them have died, and in fact we've lost, I don't know if you mentioned some of them who've lost their lives in prison. I could tell from my own experience that I've lost my cousin in prison, and what happened, which is even more tragic, after he died, we were planning to do the burial, and they kidnapped his body. We never saw even the body to bury him. We call upon the British government and the international community to demand the immediate stop of genocide of the Banyamulenge in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but also to release those who are wrongly detained in different prisoners. Now I'm going to emphasize on the role of the Mahoro Peace Association in the whole new conflict that has started in Congo. Since 2017, Mahoro Peace Association has been a lifeline for the Banyamulenge survivors, stepping in where the Congolese government, the UN agencies, and humanitarian organizations have completely failed to assist our own people. Despite the limited resources that we have as a community, as Menge mentioned, we've done so many things. One of them supplied food to displaced Banyamulenge community throughout monthly contributions that we give, and despite logistical challenges and the exorbitant transportation costs. We have also provided medical equipment, medicine, and established nutrition stations to combat malnutrition among children, pregnant women, and elderly. We've also distributed seeds to help families cultivate their lands and regain self-reliance, because we know, as we all know, the areas where they are now is very isolated, and for them to get food, they have to be supplied by airline, and it's very hard to get food to them. We also supported orphans and funded education for children who would otherwise have no access to school. These efforts have made us targets, and I have to mention this, because of the effort that we've been trying to support our own people, we've become a target of so many agencies, and transporting food have been sometimes ambushed, and sometimes people were killed in the process. We have had teams of medical doctors who've tried to go to the areas and got killed in the process of trying to help their own people. My call today, we are here today to urge the British government to do the several things that I'm going to mention here. One, provide humanitarian assistance to Banyamulenge people who are now facing starvation, malnutrition, and dire health crisis. And leverage your British government leveraging the diplomatic relationships and economic ties with the DRC to press the Congolese government to halt genocide and protect our people. And the other thing, we're asking, advocate for the release of the Banyamulenge detainees languishing in the Congolese prisons under unjust conditions. Amplifying, this is what we're doing here. We want you to help us to amplify the voices of the Banyamulenge for being crying out and to the international communities, ensuring peace and justice, and also in Democratic Republic of the Congo. As we reflect on this call for action, I drew my inspiration from Elie Wiesel, a Jewish author, philosopher, and humanist who devoted his life to combating indifference. Wiesel once said, the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. We saw the struggle against the indifference. He saw the struggle against the indifferences and struggle for peace, reminding us that silence in the face of suffering is not neutrality, it is complicity. And I'm going to repeat this: the silence silence in the face of suffering is not neutrality, it is complicity. The Banyamulenge people cannot wait. The world has witnessed a genocide before, and we all know different genocide. One of them is Rwanda, the most recent one, often acting too late. Let this not be one of the failures of humanity again. To all present here, thank you for your attention, your compassion, your commitment. Together, let us stand for peace and justice for the Banyamulenge people, in DRC Congo, and for their dignity and the right to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, George. Very poignant words that I'm sure are shared by the whole gathering here today. Next up, we've got Julie Mudasumbwa, who is a witness who worked in Minembwe village and is going to speak to us today. Julie, over to you.
Honorable members of Parliament and esteemed guests. My name is Julie Mudasumbwa, and I'm a Development Director at the University of Ebenezer of Minembwe. We educate, empower, and respond to the humanitarian crisis that have ravaged our region. Today, I stand before you as a witness to a tragedy that has unfolded for far too long. The Minembwe Highlands in South Kivu, Democratic Republic of Congo, sit at the intersection of three territories, Fizi, Mwenga, and Uvira. But more than a place on the map, it is a region scarred by one of the most brutal yet overlooked humanitarian crises in recent history. For over 7 years, intertribal conflict has torn this land apart, forcing over 150,000 people, 80% of the population, into displacement or refuge in neighboring countries. This is not just a crisis, it is tragedy. The numbers are staggering. Like George had mentioned, over 2,000 lives were lost. More than 300 villages burned to the ground. Nearly 500,000 livestock stolen, which was the backbone of the Banyamulenge economy. 46 schools were destroyed, and 11 out of 18 health centers ransacked. Women and girls endure unspeakable acts of sexual violence. Families live in concentrated villages, stripped of safety, dignity, and the basic necessities of life. But these numbers are not just statistics. They're mothers who cannot feed their children, fathers who cannot protect their families. Children fall asleep hungry and wake up unsure if they will survive the day. Nearly 1,100 children have dropped out of school, and over 2,000 orphans are left without guidance or care. Imagine a child losing not just their home, but their future. The saturation of displaced people in Minembwe and nearby areas has created unimaginable suffering. Clean water is scarce, food even scarcer, and malnutrition is rampant, leaving hunger and illness as constant companions to thousands. And security has made it nearly impossible for farmers to access their fields, leading to drastic drops in agricultural production. With roads impassable, trade and aid are cut off, deepening the crisis. According to the humanitarian needs assessment done by World Relief and our institution, the University of Minembwe, the average food production per household has fallen between 24% and 75% for the main agricultural crops in Minembwe. In the absence of government and humanitarian agency support, few local organizations and the Banyamulenge diaspora have stepped up and stood in the gap with whatever limited resources they can muster. Ebenezer University shelters displaced churches in its conference hall, while our primary and secondary schools opened up doors for orphans and other vulnerable children for education. Honorable members, I stand before you not just to share these facts, but to appeal to your humanity. The people of Minembwe are waiting for someone to see them, to hear them, to care. They're waiting for someone to say enough is enough. The UK has a proud tradition of standing up for justice and extending a hand to those in need. Today, I urge you to honor that tradition by using your voice and influence to advocate for immediate humanitarian aid, like George mentioned, to address food, water, and medical needs in Minembwe. Support local organizations and institutions like Ebenezer University of Minembwe by helping us expand education, healthcare, and peace-building initiatives, and also raise awareness of this crisis so Minembwe is no longer forgotten. The people of Minembwe need your voice, your influence, and your action. Together, we can bring hope to a forgotten people and write a new chapter, one of compassion, justice, and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. That was very much a call to action to us all here today, and thank you for sharing your experiences, which I can only appreciate have been harrowing and difficult to watch. But rest assured, I know that colleagues here will do all they can to support you and to raise these issues within Parliament. So last but not least, with some closing remarks before we open our discussion, I'd like to hand over to Dr. Alex Mutunga, who is the BACA Board Chair.
Thank you. If you can allow me, I'll stand. It's really such a great honor to be here. I really want to remind friends from other countries what it means to be here. Westminster Parliament is often referred to as a mother of other parliaments. It doesn't really mean to patronize other countries, but it really means that other countries that use the Westminster system of democracy really have been inspired by this place. This is a place where we have seen in history, over 100 years ago, some MPs championing issues like this and changing the history. And one of them, who are very well known, is Edmond Morel, who became an MP of Dundee. He was a young boy, born from a French mother and British man. He ended up championing issue of the DRC. At that time, there was a King Leopold who has some connection with our royal family. And he started writing articles, and later he became an MP. But through his campaign, King Leopold was kicked out from the DRC. It wasn't that simple. It led to someone called Roger Kessman, an Irish diplomat, who was commissioned to really confirm whether the atrocity that King Leopold was committing were true. And something incredibly unbelievable is that the UK Roger Kessman report inquiry was really endorsed. So Roger Kessman endorsed a report that was already being shared by Edmond Morel. So exactly similar to Honorable Rebecca Longbelly. This has been about 10 years or over 10 years really working on this issue. So we really want to thank you. And extending my thanks, I really want to thank all other MPs who joined us today. It is really honoring us. Banyamulenge like to be listened to. It is a part of our healing, so that we're able to extend our message on what happened to us. So thank you so much for being here. And to Honorable Jeremy Corbyn, you made me join the Labour Party, by the way, when you were leader of you. So I'm so happy to be here. Speakers, you're amazing. Thank you so much for things you're doing. There is a concept of allyship. Allyship is really when, thank you. Allyship is when you are advocating for something that's not affecting your social group. Exactly what Thomas has been doing, what Menge has been doing, what Rebecca has been doing, what Richard Wilson has been doing. And these individuals really show what inclusion is about. And on that note, I really want to thank 3 people who've been champions of activism and really made our way to be here today. And he will be surprised me to mention about this. Richard Wilson really taught us to engage with the politics, engage with the MPs. Has been telling us 20 years ago that, look, you need to engage with the all parliamentary groups. You need to engage with your MPs. And it took us this time to be able to be here. Thank you so much. I want to thank our Jeanne d'Arc, Irene Kamanzi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for being here. It's really important for you to be here, and a support for the journey you've started. George Budagu, who's been an amazing activist, especially on the issue of Banyamulenge, ended up writing a book, The Ladder to the Moon. It taught me an expression which really has inspired me to keep going in what we're doing. He said that a story that's not told dies in someone's mind, and the evil flourishes when it's not pointed out. And the truth goes along with it. And that should really sink with that today. There is 2 stories. I want to send a message to MPs who are still around here. I know Rebecca knows a lot about what's going on to the DRC. There are 2 stories about conflict in the DRC. Really talking about the longest running armed conflict in the world. One of the long running conflict. And the understanding that the mineral-rich Eastern Congo is a battlefield of many armed groups. That's what is written in newspaper here. That's often what Foreign Affairs will talk about. They will also talk about that this conflict has spilled over to other countries. That's what's known in Foreign Affairs here. They also talk about this conflict is multifaceted and is complex. There's no way we can find a solution. And you will see briefings talking about that this conflict has had so many actors who are intervening and become difficult geopolitically. There's also an understanding that there is the UN troops, which this country is a bigger contributor to. Is one of the largest UN troops in the history. We spend, there's about 1.5 billion 5 years ago. It has reduced, but still around 1 billion a year that many countries contribute to. That is well known. There is also consensus, which we see in Foreign Affairs briefing, that this conflict and intervention has failed. And the consensus is that it has failed because the focus has been on building central government institutions. There's now a little bit of consensus that actually all this reform and intervention have been resisted by political elites in the DRC, which really means that we are spending our money, our taxpayer money, to propose reforms which will be resisted by our partners in the DRC. And that is important for MPs to understand here. So the story that's known is a story that we've been hearing today. A locally created conflict where political actors generate violence so that they can be able to sustain their politics, their political powers. So MPs have to compete on how much they hate Tutsis so they can be able to be elected. So hate in the DRC is a form of political correctness. It's similar to how anti-Semitism is an issue. It's similar to how hate crime is an issue here. But in Congo, the opposite is that you'll be much more supported. Hence why what Sir George has been talking about, there is no one single humanitarian agency supporting Banyamulenge. Why? Because it's unpopular and risky. But our foreign affairs here will tell us, oh, last year we have provided 50 million to this and this and this and this. But yet, yes, but you have done that, but any more scrutiny and auditing to find out where the aid goes. To finish, what I would really recommend is that this country has made declaration during Jack Throw as Foreign Affairs to say that justice must be done for Gatumba. So we want you to uphold that promise. Secondly, you can apply the law of responsibility to protect. This is a law that came up in 2006. UK is a part of signature of that law, and you're part of a UN Security Council. You can use those two positions to ask for accountability. Thank you. To ask for accountability to the DRC government. Something that Richard will probably like me to say is, don't fund hate. By funding the DRC government, you are funding the ethnic cleansing of the Banyamulenge. Because thank you. Because at the moment, the DRC government and the army are in partnership with the armed groups. They have come up with a phenomenon called the Wazalendo, which means the patriotism, and 250 armed groups are supported by the DRC army. And if we are doing some reform of security, therefore we are supporting armed groups as well. UN is in partnership with the armed groups. And that sounds very controversial, but is true. Provide humanitarian support and targeted humanitarian support. And use your presence in DRC to address the root causes of conflict, which is what we've just been talking about today. This is a homegrown causes of conflict. Homegrown. It's not about the Cold War politics. It is not about geopolitics. It's not about powers, China and Russia, fighting with the West over resources. Conflict in the DRC is homegrown. And it is important for this country to come up with the courage to address, to hold DRC government accountable. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Dr. Alex, and thanks so much to all of our amazing speakers who have travelled to be with us today. I think it's been a very thought-provoking and an interesting session, particularly for colleagues in the House to hear. I'm going to open up the floor now for discussion, for comments that anybody might have, for particular comments from Lords and MPs, or any questions that anybody might have who was attending today. So if you want to speak, just kind of like give us a little wave and I'll bring you in. Should we start with you, Jeremy? You're always good at starting these discussions.
This is too much. Becky, thank you very much, and thank you for organising this and your energy and determination to make sure these voices are heard. So I think we all owe you a big vote of thanks today. Having been twice in the DRC and have a substantial DRC community from all parts of the country living in my constituency, I'm aware of a lot of the issues that you're raising. On my two visits to the DRC, one was as an election observer in the far west of the country and then in Kinshasa, and on a later visit I was in Goma visiting various refugee camps around there and then travelled eventually to Kinshasa. And I'm very well aware also of the huge degree of conflict that's going on all across the DRC, the fact that the world's media are incapable of reporting anything to do with the DRC is absolutely shocking. There are obviously wars going on in Ukraine and the Middle East that we very well know about. There's a huge war going on in Sudan that's barely reported, and there's a decades-long conflicts in the DRC that gets no coverage whatsoever. And so this Evidence Week at least is a start beginning to address that balance, and that is important. The second questions I'd like to ask of the panel is really a number. One is, I read from your papers, and I read on the internet also, the role of the DRC government doesn't seem to be active in any way in protecting the community. If anything, it seems to run into the narrative that since some of your ancestors may have come from what is now Rwanda a very long time ago, that makes you somehow rather loyal to another country. Well, that's not actually very logical. At the time that many of your ancestors would have possibly moved to that part of what is now South Kivu, the country names are not even known. Most of those were drawn by the Europeans in 1884.
Yes.
And Leopold was very involved in drawing of those lines to make sure he got complete control of what is now called the DRC. Borders in Africa don't make any sense at all because they're all colonial creations. Secondly, I'd like to know what influence there is of malevolent forces in your area who are dealing with the issue of stealing cattle. I've read the stuff on that, but also I'd be very interested to know what the mineral influence is, particularly on supplies of cobalt, which is one of the world's most valuable resources. And some of the most exploited people in the world are those in the Congo that are digging it out, and their treatment is appalling. And then lastly, from the time that I visited, and many times since then, I've heard concerns about the mandate of the UN mission, the cost of the UN mission, and what it actually achieves in the DRC. And so I think it'd be helpful for us today to hear that, and no doubt many other issues that colleagues want to raise, so that we can work out the best ways we can do of working with you to ensure there is a better understanding in government and in the UN and in UN Human Rights Council circles around all of these issues. But can I just say thank you so much for coming today. Prove the value of this Evidence Week, and it's also the value of your organisation and all of you coming together to give a clear, very understandable, very collective voice of the way in which your communities have been treated. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. Would anybody like to speak in response to any of the comments that Jeremy made? Yeah.
Thank you very much, MP Jeremy, and my name is Alexis Kire. I'm the chair of the Banyamulenge Community Association. We are around 1,000 people living here, and most of the people were brought here for resettlement by the International Organization for Migration in partnership with the British government, which we really appreciate the support of the British government. As you mentioned, Congo was created in 1884-85, and at the time of its creation, Banyamulenge were already living in Congo, which means we are Congolese by origin, not by immigration. So the whole region was controlled by Belgium, and of course this is it doesn't stem from we are migrants, we are Congolese by origin. Rather, the issue is ethnic oriented hate, and that's why we really urge your support and British support for our cause by putting pressure on Congolese government to make sure that we are treated like every other citizen, and no one can be like criminalized because of its ethnic group, because Tutsi live in Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, India, even Uganda, because these are transborders ethnic groups, and it's similar to everywhere in Africa. So for that first question, I think we need more support to make sure Congolese government are responsible or are accountable for their duty to protect the Banyamulenge community like everybody else. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Internet. And I think it's important to mention to the group that Salford is one of the only places in the UK that has laid a memorial stone in relation to the Gatumba genocide. And that's all down to the Banyamulenge community and Alexis for fighting hard at council level to get the support to be able to deliver a place where people can sit down and remember their loved ones and remember how important the fight for justice is. So over to you, Alexis.
Thank you so much. I don't have too much to say, but it's just to say thank you to MP Rebecca. What she has done, I don't know what I can say that. And since 2015, I've been working with her and also our city mayor. Now we have the memorial stone to remember people who've been killed in the Gatumba. That's really amazing. I don't know what I can say. And if I should not be in touch with MP Rebecca, this event should not be organized. Everything she's in charge, she has organized the rules, and also Charlie. We've been dealing with Charlie. Thank you so much for everything. And also, I just say thank you to Jeremy for coming. I'm a councillor in Salford. I know about you when you were like the leader of the Labour Party, and thank you very much for coming and supporting us. Thank you so much. And finally, I want to say thank you to Thomas for everything he's doing as an activist, and also Wilson. We have been working with him for a long time ago. He's activist, and we think that one day justice will be done. I say thank you for all members of our community who came from different places, for everything and for organizing, for coming. Thank you so much. And thank you for my friend as well, Jean Paul and Menga, and George from USA who came and for this event. Say thank you, everybody.
Good. So it was really to extend response to the pertinent questions from Honorable Jeremy. The mandate of the UN has been kind of being renewed every year. Now we have until December again this year. But the mandate is under really UN peacekeeping. There are two mandates for those who have studied peace building. Peace building. So peacekeeping, they are very much observers. They cannot, forcefully intervene in conflict. Whereas peace mandate, when they have mandate of peacemaking, they can actually be able to get involved in armed conflict, which they are not. For the question around the role of the government is really social worker in conflict, as we have mentioned today. There are lots of evidence, research showing that the government has been really leading in manipulating conflict, especially mobilizing ethnicity as a tool to kind of get people against one another as a strategy for being elected. And Tutsi is really their kind of a mobilizing point. The only thing really unites all political parties in the DRC is hatred against Tutsi. if you are able to articulate that, you will be able to get a lot of support and bring everyone together. And the last point around the natural resources and minerals, a lot of research show that there is no link of minerals and mobilization for armed groups. Armed groups are much more mobilized around ethnicity and tribalism. I do kind of in my writing call it black on black racism, because it's rooted in racial theories, which Thomas has mentioned this morning, earlier today. It is really almost kind of like the key, the central driver of conflict in Eastern Congo. Yes, minerals sustain armed groups. Minerals can sustain armed groups, but are not really the key motivating point for armed groups to start. I know they had a lot of campaigns kind of talking about blood minerals. Yes, corporations, massive corporations, big corporations have benefited a lot from the conflict, but the local actors of conflict are not inspired by minerals. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Innocent. I'm a member of this collective. I've been working on this issue for quite 6 years, sending letters to the other MPs and the Parliament. Today we are glad to be here with the presence of a couple of MPs and Jeremy Corbyn as well. Today we need to know exactly what is the concrete action you tell the Banyamulenge community and Tutsi to stop this hate speech, a humanitarian issue. Today I'm here. Yesterday, the Banyamulenge hospital, we had only one in Mulenge, yes, was destroyed by militias. They don't have even a place to go to get even paracetamol. We need the Parliament, the UK Parliament, as a Banyamulenge citizen here, to tell us the concrete actions, not only words, because what we are talking today is happening, it's not a story. Myself, I documented hundreds of villages, names, places, school destroyed. People who are detained in jail now without any crime. We are here today to seek help. We are asking now to tell us what the concrete action we are going to do to support Tutsi and Banyamulenge and Hema regarding these issues. Thank you so much.
And then I'll come back in.
Yeah, I think I want to echo what Innocent just mentioned, and I've got to tell my own story. I arrived in the United States back in 2002, and the Katumba massacre occurred in 2004. And from that time, and I think that's how we got connected to Richard. And we've been sending letters and letters to the United States officials and also to the UN to no avail. And what really concerns me, it's a lack of attention to our cry, to the cries of the Banyamulenge community. And when I was coming here, on my way here, I was thinking, what is the tie with the British government, with the Congolese government? And I learned that first you have the diplomatic relationship with the Congolese government. The second, you also have supply of offered humanitarian aids in so many ways. And the other one, you also have some military support or technical assistance to the military of Congolese government. And those three ties that are also regional ties, and I'm wondering, is there any leverage that you can do as a British government, MPs who are here and lords who are here, to push the Congolese government? All we're asking is just to leave, the right to leave first, and also other things can come after that. As we spoke yesterday, when we were having one gathering in Manchester, I learned about the loss of my nephew, who happened to be the third person that was lost in the same. Imagine a parent losing 3 sons just in a short, very, very short period of time. One of them was the one, I think you have heard of, that Tayoriwa was lynched and killed and burned and eaten something that we've never seen before, and it has happened more than one time. I think you have the cases of those.
Without any reaction from the judicial power. And his son, his brother was killed a few days ago.
Exactly. That's what
this is crazy.
So when Julie mentioned about these are not statistics, those are not just numbers, are names of people we know related to us, our own bloods, we call them, and it just kills us to see that our cries are falling on deaf ears. And I would like to, I think the solace that we can have for us community members, just to hear your word as tangible actions that we can take from here now, and hopefully things can start getting better from there.
I can just add one more. We have videos when they killed and when the people was eaten. We have a video. We have the perpetrators. Nothing was made against them. Nothing. Even some of those extremists are congratulated in Kinshasa. And European community continue to treat the representative of RDC like honorable people. They are really in a situation that at a certain moment we will ask them to go in court and explain and that justice should be delivered, because those crimes, your father was arrested. He remained in Demiap during a lot of months due just to some falsification of his own history. And when we asked to UN why they made that, they sent me an answer saying we are not responsible and it's responsibility of the Congolese government. It means do what you want, we are not interested. Bintou Keita, the representative of the General Secretary, you know, there were murders in Lala, and after those massacre crimes, there was an investigation sent by UN. Imagine that the representative of UN came in the villages before arrival of the investigators to ask them not to say what happened and to lie. At the end, because I was advised immediately by the people of the villages, at the end, after that, the investigators refused to visit the villages because the people of the villages, I said, say the truth, don't go ahead. And the answer of UN was, we are not going to visit. This is what they suffer every day. It's crazy. In the silence of the international community.
Do you have any more comments?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Patrick Wiswakera. I'm part of the FCDC. It's a political party, and we're based by diaspora, and we do mostly for advocacy. I have a question for the MP member is, we just noticed like there's a lack of public media broadcasting in Congo. And we know you guys in British on BBC and it's broadcasting all over the world. So why you guys, the MP, can question BBC to put awareness about in Congo? People are dying every day, and the only social platform for media now can help to broadcast what happening in Congo. It's X, or Elon Musk. But you notice BBC, CNN, there's a lot of information concerning what happened in Congo. So if you guys can, the MP member, because it's funded by public taxpayer from here, to try to bring awareness of what happened in Congo, so we can stop this atrocity. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to maybe clarify a few points. So to add to what Alex was saying earlier, that the research does show that there's no link, or no strong link between conflict and minerals in this part of the country. The situation of cobalt, that's a separate human rights issue. So although it is important and we shouldn't dismiss it, I do see a lot of discourses, particularly on social media, which morph everything in Congo into one kind of problem. You often see Congo genocide as a bit of a meme, and they're often quite poorly informed. So what we need is more information. We need the public to be informed about all the different types of human rights issues. Also, although minerals aren't the main driver of conflict, this is not a helpful systematic study, but Deutsche Welle did do quite an impactful report, I think it was about 2 years ago, on the link between anti-BANYAMULENGE attacks and the global trade of gold. So Mai were selling gold and using that income to purchase arms to attack the BANYAMULENGE. So that's a small report. It's not a systematic report, but it does give you a snapshot of the issue. In terms of just to clarify what we mean by the government being complicit in or linked with the militias against Tutsi, what President Tshisekedi did, so he's been on quite an interesting journey. A few years ago, he said that the BANYAMULENGE are Congolese in London, and he got a terrible reaction. And since then, he seems to have gone on a bit of a journey. And what he did was he actually decreed that militias that were meant to be against the government could join the army. Yeah. So he himself has gone on a journey, a very populist journey, while there's this conflict related to M23. So that's just to clarify some of the details of what has been going on and why people are saying government are complicit with the militias, because it's quite a worrying development in my opinion. And then finally, just related to the silence of the UN, I want to make a comment that the UN is a very important institution, and I'm aware that the UN is under attack by a lot of powerful actors around the world. People don't want the UN to work, which is why we need to put pressure on them to be better on Congo, because they need to. They are the only voice, really, I think, and Human Rights Watch. I don't know why Human Rights Watch have been so quiet and amnesty on this issue. So, although I'm aware that the UN can come under attack of malicious groups, in this context, unfortunately, they are not. They're not living up to their role to protect minorities.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Jeremy.
So I just very briefly, I think the point you were making about the media is a very important one. The BBC aren't the only ones that having a very Eurocentric view of world affairs, a very laxist view of foreign policy, and often completely fail to understand anything that's happening in Africa at all, or attempt to explain it in a proper way. I mean, just a very short anecdote which emphasises that. I was at Goma Airport when there was a plane crash. Plane hit a lava flow that had gone across the runway, never been cleared away. The plane somersaulted over and landed in the village to the end of the runway. It was terrible. The UN forces nearby did turn up and did do quite a lot to help with rescuing people and so on. It was horrendous, but it wasn't that good. I got a call from the media in London and said, we understand you're in Go. And I said, yeah, that's true. They said, I understand you're in a plane crash. I said, yeah, I've just been to the plane crash site. I said, okay, was anybody injured? I said, well, what do you think happens when a plane crashes? They said, was anybody killed? I said, sadly, yes, quite a lot. And they said, was anybody you know killed? I said, no. What are you leading up to? They said, well, who do you know that was on the flight? I said, what are you talking about? And then I said, look, if you want to know, were there any Europeans on the flight or injured or killed, the answer is no. Everyone on the flight, as far as I'm aware, was from the locality, as were the people in the village. They said, oh, well, thanks for your call. And that was it. And the idea that it was only news if an American or a European had been on that flight, it was absolutely disgusting. I was just so angry with this guy.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to him since.
Wow.
Thanks so much. I think I'll draw conclusions, draw the event to a close now, if that's okay, because I'm conscious that we're going to be evicted from the room at 3 o'clock and we've got all these sandwiches and tea and coffee and biscuits to eat really quickly before we go. But I just want to say a huge, huge thanks to everybody who's spoken today, to everyone who's attended, and I know some people have come from very far afield, as far as the United States and other parts of Europe. So thank you so much for being with us today. In terms of actions going forward, I know that there are a lot of supportive Lords and MPs here today, and I would suggest 2 specific actions from today, and then maybe more leading off from that. So the first one, I think, is to write a letter to the Foreign Secretary, now that we have a new government. We've written to previous governments before, but I think we should try again, outlining many of the points that were raised in relation to justice for the victims of the Gatumba genocide, protection for the Banyamulenge community on an ongoing basis, and aid to those communities who desperately need it. And then the second letter, I think it's worth us writing to the BBC World Service as our public service broadcaster to just state that we've met today as a group and that we have raised concerns about the lack of coverage of what is a very dire and worrying situation in the DRC and affecting the Banyamulenge community, and hopefully it will make a few ripples at the BBC and encourage them to cover stories that we need them to cover a little bit more widely. So hopefully that's good as a starter. Do get in touch with us, because we want to be here for you, to be your voice. So if you think of anything that either myself or Jeremy or the Lords and MPs that are here today, or if you, even your own MPs, if you think of stuff that you want us to do or stuff that we're not doing, don't hesitate to let us know. Because as an MP, I know that the things that always receive the attention they deserve are those issues where constituents have joined together and made noise and pestered the living daylights out of their MP and made sure that they actually took action. So please let us know if you want us to do anything specific. So finally from me, thank you so much to everybody for coming today, to Alexis, the Banyamulenge community in the UK, and everyone that's been involved in organising today's event. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please do help yourself to sandwiches, biscuits, fruit, tea and coffee, and hopefully we'll meet again soon. So thank you very much.